let's start off with this first learning outcome, e-commerce application unit. Now, this is, as I've said before, this is a very good unit to study. It's an interesting unit because today, we can't do away with most of the e-commerce applications that we see, whether it's shopping online, whether you're browsing the internet or looking at, basically interacting with a lot of different platforms and websites. There is a lot of elements of payment which is involved. And when we see the element of payment coming into the Internet of Things, that is browsing, surfing, what you tend to then do is relate that to something called commerce. Because in the olden days, when we look at how people used to go about doing their business or carrying their business, used to do business and transaction of business happen more or less face to face. If you had to make a sale, you had to go to the customer's end to give him a demonstration, talk about the product, show him the service or the material that you were trying to sell. And at some stage, that discussion led to a stage where you were able to sell a product or a service. But when we look at the same concept happening in the virtual world, when we look at the same concepts being done on the internet and the websites, what we do get to see is that particular transaction of commerce which happens is termed as something called electronic commerce or e-commerce in short. And in the unit that we are looking at covering, what we want to be able to do is understand how e-commerce is done, what are the platforms which make up e-commerce, what are the different models and applications which we can look at, and how do we classify them into all relating to what is called electronic commerce or shopping. Or when we say I'm shopping online or I'm buying a product online or I'm buying something online, it's all under the remit and the umbrella of something called e-commerce. So what we want to do in this unit is understand the basics of e-commerce, the principles, how it works, and then why has it become very important nowadays for most organizations. When we say organizations, I mean businesses and companies to have an online presence. And if you see some of the companies which have an online presence, when they sell their products and services, they also sell their products and services to the online route. And when I say the online route, that means again they do electronic commerce. That means they provide the facility or the option to the customer to be able to do shopping online or placing of order and taking payments online. And that process typically encompasses what is called, described as something called e-commerce. And then towards the end, what we want to do is see how e-commerce is growing as a model, as a business model, and then how companies are able to derive revenue or increase their revenue, by using e-commerce as one of the strategies to go to market. Now, an example here that I will give primarily would be that when you look at traditional companies, like we look at companies like fast-moving consumer good companies, FMCGs. So when we talk about FMCG companies, we talk about the big names like Procter & Gamble, we look at Kraft, we look at Nestle, we look at Unilever. These are big companies which basically, distribute their products to retailers, consumers, through the distribution channel route. Now, one of the channels through which, and in most of the countries, for example, in KL, where you are there, and India, you are there, Nitin, you will now see that there is a emergence of what is called, retail chain. Like Reliance has opened up Reliance Fresh. You have, Macro available. I think here you have other chains like Tesco. You have Carrefour. You have lots of these big supermarkets which basically have opened up. Now, one of the ways that they sell the product is through a brick and mortar model. That means they have a physical presence in the location. And you visit the store, you can buy things, you can pay for those things at that location. But as the business has expanded and various go-to-market routes have been made available to businesses, what are these go-to-market routes? Now, one of the routes through which companies sell is distribution marketing. One of the other routes through which companies sell their products and services is catalog marketing or catalog sales. One of the other routes through which they sell is agents or distributors or retailers. The other routes could be, one of the other routes for the go-to-market is online today. So when we look at online, or when we say you have the ability to set up a store online, and from that store the customers have the ability to be able to buy and order products and services, that side of the go-to-market then becomes something called online commerce. That means you are able to sell products, position these products and services to your consumers and internationally, because when you have a website which works and you sell those products and services from there, that provides a reach to the global audience. So when you look at retailers which are selling clothes, you look at retailers which are selling products and services which could be virtual, like in our case as UK Versity, you see that we have this platform available through which I can reach out to customers globally, and that allows us to position and obviously teach and deliver our courses to learners not just in the UK but abroad as well. And this presence, which is a go-to-market option for us, is nothing but online commerce. That means we have the ability to set up a store, and that store is a virtual store, allows us to position our products and services and through which we can actually go to market. And one of the channels through which the company can create revenue is that we can also sell these products online. And online selling of these products and services is done through the process of something called e-commerce, because you have the ability to be able to take payments, and these payments, when it is taken through the online route, when you have debit card, bank transfer, PayPal, those kind of things, would then integrate or something be called under an umbrella of something called electronic commerce or e-commerce. But the traditional go-to-market models have been, retailers, distributors, catalogs, TV sales, for example, door-to-door selling, multi-level marketing. Those kind of things are also available, wherein these kind of sales can typically be done by companies. So why e-commerce is important is what we will understand in, learning outcome 3, wherein we see that why increasingly a lot of companies are now looking at creating a strategy for a store online through which they can reach out to consumers globally, and they can sell their products and services not just in a particular city or in a particular country, but also to a wider audience which are geographically in different locations. So this unit, in the first learning outcome, we looked at a couple of things which primarily were a summation of how the concept of e-commerce has come about. And for that, I put together a slide which basically meant that we want to show you how, because of the changes happening in technology, the advancements happening in technology are enabling the development of things, starting with ATMs, starting with some of the things which were when the industrial revolution started. We had the automation of certain things like through ATMs, then your centralized records through banks. Then we look at the introduction of internet, which allowed information to be shared through the website or through the online presence. At some stage, we saw the introduction of mobile phones, and they have then allowed a lot of these things to become independent of the infrastructure-related model, which is what we call brick and mortar. That means we do not require a store. A company does not require a physical presence, but can set up an online presence and then still sell their products and services through the use of what is called the e-commerce platform. So this slide actually summarizes that nicely. And when we see when did e-commerce become important, is between the 1990s and 2000, we saw this as a concept emerging. And then slowly and gradually, as this has grown, we see lots of other things coming in, things like your security, which is required to make sure that the cards or the details when they are taken, they do not fall into wrong hands. We are looking at virtualization, cloud computing, all these data transactions we created led to what is called the introduction of cloud computing things. So from the introduction of web to the introduction of cloud computing, then the advent of social media, and then we look at what is called the Internet of Things. Today, we do not need a PC, we do not need a Mac or a PC or a desktop-based device to access this information. This can be done primarily through any device which allows you to connect to the internet, and from there you can get access to the Internet of Things, which is primarily anything which is that you want to buy, sell, transact, create, distribute, disseminate, can be done through that. So the first learning outcome was primarily focused on making you understand the history of e-commerce, how it has originated, what are the standards which have come in, and then we looked at certain models and principles of e-commerce and how this has developed. So things like reliability. When we are on this session, we are reliant on the internet and the hardware to ensure that there is continuous connectivity. So it requires infrastructure, bandwidth, and also the ability of the software to be able to integrate everybody in terms of users to come onto the same platform through which we are able to do this webinar. So certain points like security, reliability. We look at infrastructure development, because in a lot of countries you still do not have broadband, as we say. They have dial-up internet or modem, internet which basically is slow speed because it is through the dial-up modems. But in most locations where you have fiber internet or internet which has speeds, the speeds have increased over the years. So that allows to have a lot of independent services. Things you can have multiple services and independent services running because of the bandwidth available, which this is very possible. And then we looked at the different types of models: B2B, business to business. We talk about business to consumer, consumer to consumer. If you are selling, I don't know whether you've heard of websites like here. When you look at websites, which primarily are allowing users to sell products to users directly. So if you are a user of Facebook, you will see that Facebook has also introduced something called a marketplace, wherein one customer can sell a product directly to another customer. Or when you look at certain websites in the UK in particular and in the developed countries, there are sites in which you are able to sell directly to consumer without going through an intermediary or a platform. And the difference here is between the models when you look at is, if you look at eBay or if you look at Amazon, these are platforms which have been created and owned by a company. And what this platform does is they bring the sellers and buyers together onto a single place wherein you are able to buy and sell or purchase things by interacting with the seller. And this is a business to consumer model, because Amazon allows customers to come into the platform and browse the product, but there are lots of sellers and businesses or organizations which are positioning their products which you can browse and then you can buy. A business to businesses, Amazon side of things also has what is called the business to business, wherein as an organization you can buy directly from bigger businesses or distributors. So when you look at this as a platform, when businesses are able to sell to businesses, you will see that model will be called B2B. Now, with the advent and as the time has passed, what has happened is there are a lot of different models which have come. So you have consumer to business, you have business to government, government to business, and government to citizen. Now, in the UK, there is something called .gov website. And if you have, which is like a digital citizen, here the government is able to give out information to people about their pension benefits, anything related to that, and that giving of the information by the government to the consumer directly, which is you as a citizen directly in terms of your rights, your pension, your national insurance, your medical or benefits and things like that, would be something called government to citizen. And in most places, you must have heard about that. Sometimes when governments buy machinery, plant, or anything in terms of products on a mass scale, they do something called tendering. In India, for example, I understand that there is DGSND, Director General of Government Supplies, which basically takes out tenders. Similarly, in here, the Malaysian government brings out a lot of tenders when they say, okay, we are setting up a computer system and we want the automation or computerization to happen for a tourism department. They might place a requirement for, say, 5,000 PCs, 2,000 servers, things like that. So here the government also has the ability to be able to put out their requirements onto a portal, and that portal, in the UK, say for example, is Bravo Solutions, and there is similar portals available, everywhere where the government is able to basically look at inviting tenders and where businesses can come and participate in those tenders by uploading their service level agreements, their offers, and then they have the ability to be buying. So G2B is government to business. That means government is asking businesses to quote directly, or government is selling products and services to business directly, or government is selling directly, providing information services to citizens directly. So as the time has evolved, what has happened is we've seen a lot of these models, on e-commerce evolving. Initially, the models were B2C, business to consumer, but because there are lots of companies which now look at going to bigger companies, if I look at PCWB business. Now, this is a big company in Europe, which is called PC World, and they are able to sell, products to businesses directly at a different or a differential price, because here the businesses are looking at buying, a lot of products in bulk and volume. So here the prices are expat, and the reason of having this as a differentiated model is a lot of businesses are VAT registered, and if you pay VAT, you're able to claim some of that back, or you could be exempt on certain services like charities are exempt from VAT, and this allows customers to look at buying in bulk, or customers which are looking at primarily, buying regularly can be given some incentives or some sort of differentiation from a retail customer, and that is why you see a business-to-business model also evolving. So when we look at all this, what we looked at in the first learning outcome was to understand what are these different e-commerce models, and what are the key things or key features we need to understand. And that is what was shared in a few slides. And then we also looked at some of the differences. What are the benefits of e-commerce? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And in some cases, one of the clear advantages to look at is sometimes companies place a lot of products on their website, but they do not have physical stock of that. So that means they can create a lot of SKUs or stock keep units, but they can only produce that on a basis of back-to-back ordering, and that allows the companies to ensure that a lot of different products are made available. Sometimes you will see, if you go onto Amazon and you browse a particular product, what it will say is the delivery time is 5 to 7 days. And the reason why they say that is because that might not be in stock. But you can see they have so many different types of watches, and because you are placing it virtually on the internet, if you get an order, then you can produce it and ship it. If you don't get an order, it can remain as one of the offerings. So there is inventory minimization and management is quite easy when you are looking at e-commerce. So one of the advantages and some of the disadvantages that I mentioned. And then towards the end, what we looked at was how in general e-commerce is benefiting business. And that is very clear is because this has opened up another channel. And what we see, if we do a quick search, and we do a search on what are the business model for Tesco, one of the retailers in the UK. Now, if you see the business models, what we want to see is when they publish an annual journal report, what they will do in that report is they will say that they go to market, go to market for Tesco. So in go to market for Tesco, what they're going to talk about is they're going to talk about things like how they sell their products and services internationally or in the countries they are. And as you can see, what it will do is it will differentiate its sale, how is it happening from different channels. So when they look at this, and I'll go into a bit more detail and then explain what does the business model mean, you will see that they list out revenue which they are creating from grocery products, from electronic products, from, say, for example, grocery, electronic, telecom, different types of products. And when we look at channels, they have different channels. Here the channels are retail. They look at online. They look at, for example, shops through which they sell. And this channel is one. So e-commerce is one of the channels through which actually customers can go and actually Tesco can go and sell products to customers, or customers can get products from Tesco. So these channels include small shops, large shops, online business, as they say. They also have a distributor called Booker, and then they are also looking at exploiting new channels, which is introducing, something called business to business through the stores by looking at business centers and also through wholesale selling. Now, these are different channels. So online is one of the biggest channels right now for any retailer that we look at, and this is one of the benefits that it allows big companies, big small companies to go out and reach to customers by selling products online. And that is where, this was an important aspect as far as go-to-market is concerned. So if I have to say what are the various routes through which you see businesses selling to customers or consumers, you will come up with models like, or you will talk about things like, I can buy the product in the store. I can buy the product.
Can you hear?
I can
Can
buy
you
the
hear?
product. Yes, I can hear you. So you
Thank
can
you.
buy products, from going to a shop. You can go to a big warehouse. You can also buy sometimes the product from smaller shops or distributors, but you're also able to buy products from by ordering it online. Now, Tesco sells some of these products from their own stores, but you should not be surprised if I find that Tesco also sells some of their products, from Amazon. Like Asda is selling some of the products from, what we call Amazon, because this is one of the channels through which they can increase sales, reach out to customers, and this is what is important. So, what does e-commerce allow businesses to do is primarily look at, it has created a brand new way of reaching out to customers. And this would mean sometimes you see that retailers, when they want to sell products and the inventory is not moving, they put the inventory or the products on their website, and the website would mean that anybody globally can actually buy the products, and that allows them to, disperse that inventory or sell those products not just to customers within KL or India or UK, but internationally, and allows them to, reach to customers. Now, that was what we had covered in learning outcome. So what I want to do is obviously look at a bit of summary, and that bit of summary primarily looks at understanding what is the concept of e-commerce, and then what is the relationship between the e-commerce principle when we look at security, reliability, affordability, another way through which businesses can reach out to consumers to sell products, and then also primarily look at the e-commerce models. What are the different models which have emerged over the years, and why they are distinct or different from each other. So is that okay? Has that been, clearly understood in terms of learning outcome one?
Yes, sir.
Any questions on this so far?
No. Don't not right now. I would have any questions like later on, but not right now. We're good.
That's fine. So this helps us nicely recap learning outcome one, because to understand the e-commerce principle.